Whoo, man. All right, let's get it over with. Let's talk about it. Now, I wanted to make this video a lot sooner, but I had to calm down and I had to get my thoughts together so that way I don't come off as salty or bitter, but oh well. And also, forgive me if this video is just a tad bit lengthy, but I have a lot of things that I need to get off my chest. So first, let's just talk about the game itself. Now, the game went pretty much exactly the way that I thought it was going to go, down the score and all. I said 20-31 Bills, but 17-31. I mean, I was close enough, right? Now, what really upset me about this game was not the overall result. No, 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 no. It's how everything transpired. And yes, George Pickens pretty much blasted the referees by saying, well, you can't play the Buffalo Bills and the referees at the same time. I understand that. But it is your duty and your responsibility as a player to execute. Now, the game was delayed a whole 24 hours because of that gigantic, ginormous blizzard. But at the end of the day, everybody's playing in the same weather. You're playing in the same weather as they are. And the field was about as clear as it could be. So we figure, hey, this is going to pretty much be a heavy run offense game for both sides. It's going to come down to who has the better running game because it's a risky thing to try to throw the ball in those cold and windy conditions. If anybody who's ever played football knows how it feels to throw a football in negative weather or in below freezing temperatures, it's pretty much like a brick. So, yeah, the pass game is pretty much going to be reduced. And on top of that, we're down to our third string, which should be our second string, but third string quarterback. And for you to ask Mason Rudolph to go out there and outduel Josh Allen, you're asking a lot. Now, a lot of people, sports fans, analysts, etc., they all say this game was over before it even started for two reasons. One, because the Steelers squeaked away in the playoffs like they always do. But hey, I say it doesn't matter. If you get to the playoffs, you got a chance. And the second reason why is because look at the conditions. They're going on the road with a third string quarterback, and they have TJ Watt out, who is pretty much their best offensive player, and arguably the best damn player on the team. But I tell you what it was for me. 3 turnovers in the first half and 50 plus yards worth of penalties in the second half. Self-inflicted wounds. You cannot continuously shoot yourself in the foot and expect to win a damn game, especially turnovers. This is when it counts. This is the postseason. You pretty much have to play every single down, every single quarter, every single second, like your life depended on it. And to add even more insult to injury is when the opposing team capitalizes on the mistakes that you make. And you can't do that. Like I said, it doesn't matter the conditions. When you're going up against a team that's as elite as the Buffalo Bills, yeah, pretty much every mistake you make is fatal. And kudos to Najee Harris and Jalen Warren because those guys pretty much anchored the offense for the last 3 or 4 games. And also, shout out to George Pickens too. I mean, like I said, he had a fumble and he had a slip up. But guess what? Those happen. But I know football is not a perfect game. Nobody's going to be absolutely perfect. But it's up to you to minimize those mistakes. And it is true that as bad as the officiating has been and as much as some of the refs have sucked in this season, guess what? Ultimately, the game is in your hands. You can't rely on the referees to win a game for you, whether a call is for or against your favor. You got to go out there as a player and you got to execute. Otherwise, you're not going to win. Now, the Steelers season as a whole, we showed a lot of promise. Now, there's speculation as to whether Kenny Pickett is the guy going forward or not. I still say we should give him one more year before we start looking for another quarterback. Mitch Trubisky, he needs his ass up out of Pittsburgh yesterday. Keep Mason around just in case because he's shown he can be a serviceable quarterback. I'm not saying he's the problem, but he's not the answer either. Now, our defense as a whole. Now, our secondary this year was hit or miss. I mean, Joey Porter Jr., kudos to you, brother. You showed out. Minka Fitzpatrick, you continue to be a force. And Miles Killebrew and the rest of our secondary company, like, you guys are hit or miss. But like I said, being a secondary, being a corner safety, that's pretty, aside from being the quarterback, that is damn near the hardest job in the league because you have to make split-second decisions and you got to tackle safe and you got to make sure that you're safe too. That's one of the hardest jobs on the field. Now, let's talk about our front seven. Our front seven was pretty much shining this year, between Cameron Hayward returning from his injury, Alex Highsmith. I mean, he's become a wrecking ball. And TJ Watt, the man needs no introduction. But guess what, guys? I hate to break it to you. He's not going to be in his prime forever. I say he's probably only got like 4 or 5 more years for him to be in his prime. But guess what? Even if TJ Watt loses a step, he's still going to be better than 90% of the linebackers in the league. Now the elephant in the room. Mike Tomlin and his future with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, he walked out yesterday on the interview when he was questioned about his contract, but he has 1 year left on that contract. And Steeler Nation is divided as to whether he should stay or go. You have one side is like, well, he hasn't won a playoff game in 5 years, and he hasn't won a championship in over 15. And then you got the other half is like, well, if you look at what he's done, he took a team where any other coach, they'd be a 6-win team at best, and took these teams to the playoffs. Between having a third-string quarterback and having injuries and pretty much everything under the sun happened to us. We weren't supposed to be in the playoffs, but yet under Mike Tomlin, we somehow, some way, scraped over a 500 record, and we made it to the playoffs as a 7th seed. You can call Mike Tomlin anything you want, but you can't call him a bad coach. And whether he stays or whether he goes after next year is up in the air. It's anybody's guess. Me personally, I'd love to see him stay, but also our offensive scheming, because guess what? We had Matt Canada for 8 games, 9 games before we finally got rid of him. And guess what? You're not going to see change overnight. And a lot of people say, well, it doesn't matter because as long as Mike Tomlin is the head coach, nothing is going to change. And you may be right, but at the same time, be careful what you wish for, because you may end up getting a worse coach than him. That grass ain't always green on the other side. And I know a lot of the Steelers fans and the Steelers faithful and Steelers Nation is getting impatient because we're on a 15-year drought without a championship ring. But I say that Mike Tomlin should go if we don't at least make the playoffs next year, which I believe we will, especially if everybody's healthy. But that's my thoughts on the game and my thoughts on the Steelers season as a whole. But anyway, you guys let me know what you think. Leave your comments down, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.